Surviving Reality contains explicit content full of snark and sarcasm that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Surviving Reality.
I'm Corey.
And I'm Carly, and this is Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 5, Episode 18, Part 2 of the reunion.
Still no Brittany. That's a plus for me.
I don't think so. I think it was a disappointment.
Really?
I didn't enjoy Part 2.
What do you think Brittany would have been able to add to this episode that wasn't there already?
Everyone would have been coming for her, and that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, I think I am kind of tired of seeing Meredith go after Angie. She needs to go after Brittany. We need some fresh blood.
She's going to be sitting next to her.
Yeah, she's not going to have any other options. It's going to be the easiest thing to go for. Well, the Bravo description for this one is the husbands talk about their role in their wives' arguments. Tensions reach an all-time high as Meredith attempts to clear her name to Angie's husband, Sean, over the rumors that have circled the group for the past 2 years.
That was shady of them to say circled the group.
Oh, I see what they did there.
That was an ode to the Lisa rumor.
Circled the jerk over the past 2 years.
She only just learned what that means. Like
Lisa
2
did.
weeks before she said it. I don't think that excuses it.
Well, and
doesn't that make it worse that you learned what it was?
Yeah, if you knew what it was, because then I guess you have plausible deniability if you said, I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't understand what I was bringing up.
That's not what she's saying.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. It would have been better to just say, I had no idea what it even meant when I did say it. I was just repeating it.
Or did she mean she didn't learn until recently what it meant? Until the last 2 weeks before she came to the reunion? Oh. I know. Hold on. Everyone's going to come for me because I'm defending Lisa.
Yeah, it's been a big problem.
It was just, did I mishear her? I don't know. It just doesn't seem like that is a valid excuse for your behavior. So did she mean something different? Or does she not understand that that didn't sound better? It sounded worse.
The concept of time is lost on narcissists, I guess.
Oh, God. Well, I've got a little rewrite before we get started. Meredith forces the control room to clear her name. Bronwyn admits to another half-truth. Mary Cosby makes nearly everyone cry. Whitney gets lost in a pile of tissues and couture fashion. She's really struggling at the end of the couch over there next to Bronwyn.
It was just a pile of tissues at one point, and I think you'd pretty much be able to use Bronwyn's dress, I think, if you really needed to.
It was right there.
There's
at
lots
eye level.
Extra fabric all over the place on that thing.
Well, before we get into it, I have to make a confession about Bronwyn because I think it's going to become obvious as we get further into the episode that I'm sorry. I think I'm over this bitch.
I think that this is the tell-all or reunion, whatever you want to call it. It's not doing Bronwyn any favors for me. I know there's still a lot of people who are really rallying behind her, but I think this is going back to the wishy-washy, flippy-floppy, back and forth of Bronwyn that I was unsure about at the beginning of the season. I didn't know. Should I root for her? Should I hate her? Should I like her? Should I make fun of her?
We should have listened to our guts because it seems to me that she is really struggling. Again, this is her first season. I don't think Bronwyn did well watching the season back. And now that she's here at the reunion, she's got a chip on her shoulder. She's coming for Lisa, and it seems like that's the only thing she wants to spend the next 12 hours talking about.
I will say, I think viewing this as, think of this as the conclusion of Bronwyn's Housewives interview, though, because she's trying to secure her role, her spot on the roster for next season. Is she not? I mean, that's what she's going for here.
They're always auditioning, but I think it's pretty safe to say Bronwyn is going to be here next season as long as Todd allows her to be.
And I think that was this was the illustration of that, the culmination of that. It's showing that she wants to be here. She's trying to make this stuff happen. She's moving storylines. She's keeping people on their toes.
You know what really got me, though? She went on Watch What Happens with Andy Cohen, and she admitted that she didn't buy anything from that jeweler.
Oh, so that was, when was that?
It was after the reunion,
okay,
the first part.
The first part?
So there's things that I am starting to get upset with that she exaggerates or things that aren't really the full truth. they're coming out. She's getting caught, but then she's not fessing up to them.
Was that to cover for Todd because Todd can't afford it and she didn't want to insult him on this public platform that she's found herself in now?
I think that they have made it abundantly clear that Todd can afford it. Maybe her behavior didn't warrant the purchase. Maybe it was a punishment for the way she acted on that trip.
She's grounded. Go to her room.
Whatever went down, she didn't buy anything from Emma the jeweler.
You know what I was just thinking? How hard would it be to argue in Bronwyn and Todd's house where you storm up those stairs that don't have any railings, those floating stairs up to the second story in their house?
They have to have an elevator for Todd.
For Todd, in the coming years, it will become a necessity.
Well, Todd is still out on stage, and so are the rest of the husbands. And he was kind of about to get in a tiff with John when we ended the last episode, and that just like fizzles out into nothing. It's not even important to talk about.
Yeah, they didn't have anything coming out of that. And I think they landed on kind of a weird conclusion to that too, where it was Lisa and Todd kind of like thumbs up, head nod across the table to each other. So I don't know. That was just a strange way to kind of absolve the whole situation where, well, yeah, you said that stuff on camera and that was way out of line. And then Lisa was like, oh, I didn't know that Bronwyn brought this stuff up on camera. So I thought it was okay to talk about it on camera. 6 months later, I found out it's not. So that was my bad.
They seemed to come to some kind of agreement, Todd and Lisa, because Todd was shaking his head in agreement with her, but Bronwyn's still pissed. She's sitting in front of Todd so she doesn't see his reaction to what Lisa said.
Yeah, it seems like Bronwyn and John are still the ones who are upset. Lisa and Todd are okay now.
So now Andy Cohen can start some shit. This was a heavy episode of Andy bringing things up, trying to reignite really old fights. And we start talking about the Angie, Meredith, Sean rumor that Meredith supposedly started, which was that Sean is having sex with other men outside of the marriage.
This is so old. This is 2 seasons ago now?
I mean, they did fight about it earlier this season.
Yeah, but I mean, they're still fighting about the initial setup of the scenario. That's what Meredith is still arguing about.
The reason they're not putting this to bed is definitely because of Meredith. She wants her name cleared. She wants it to be done at the reunion. She came here today, and this is the goal that she has had. And it's kind of a 2-piece approach. She wants to be vindicated for not being the one who even started this rumor. She's not the one who said it, and all of these years, it's been pinned on her. And then she's upset about the podcast interview that Sean did, where he claimed that Meredith was using her son as leverage and the fact that her son is gay to defend the fact that she would never say such a thing. We start with the second piece.
Oh, okay. Which I think just devolves into, it was a very heavy-handed question that was a very loaded question to begin with. So Sean's response, any response to the question, is kind of going to confirm that statement. Meredith seems to be attributing a lot of what was said in that question to things that Sean said, but that's not what Sean said.
No, Sean did use the word leverage in his answer, that she leveraged her son. I'm going to defend Meredith.
Okay.
I can't believe people are so mad at me. I can feel it in my bones. First Lisa, now Meredith. But, maybe I'm on the Delulu train. I might as well stay on it. She brought a transcript with her today.
She brought it, and then Andy had to be like, yeah, we have the clip. And they played the clip after Meredith read this entire paragraph of a quote.
Let production do their jobs, okay?
They come prepared to the reunions here for Housewives.
He does kind of apologize.
Kind of.
For the answer, but like you said,
it was at that time. It was attributing a lot of, it was at that time. I thought that way at that time. And
she says that a lot.
Okay, but it's still out there now, too. And then we haven't really cleared that or come up with a new stance on it that we've made public opinion in that way.
Now we got to move on to piece number 1, which was Monica was involved in the origin of this rumor, which, come on, guys, the fact that Monica was even part of the conversation, we should have just moved past this because she started a lot of shit.
That should have told you everything that you needed to know about this. So I think the confusing part here is that Meredith and Angie are arguing about things that Monica told them at the après-ski event fucking 2 years ago.
And then at Greek Easter at Angie's house. Same season.
And the issue is that Monica has said both of these things that are complete opposite stances on camera. Those things were confirmed. Production in the control room had to confirm, yes, and what Angie is saying that Monica told her on camera, that is true. And then what Meredith is saying that she heard Monica tell Angie on camera for something else that completely counteracts that point, that was also true. So both of these things were said on camera and they have been documented, but they're complete opposites. So they're both working off opposite ends of this information, and they can't see that the issue in the middle is Monica. You can't trust anything that she says.
We almost didn't get to that point because they weren't pulling up the footage from Greek Easter.
They had to find it. They were like, oh my God, I don't know. We didn't know that we were going to be...
Meredith, she has a note in her phone.
What episode was it?
She probably has the timestamp.
What was it? So they had to find that. They had to dig through it. They did manage to find it because they had enough time because Meredith was standing up. She was threatening to leave the tell-all, the reunion here. I think that doesn't have as much weight to it if you're threatening to storm out when everybody wants you to stop talking about this because this is a boring subject anyway. So if you're threatening to storm out, nobody's going to stop you at this point.
They almost didn't. We would have went the rest of this reunion without Meredith.
Mary Cosby, Bronwyn, Whitney, everybody was like, all right, well, yeah, maybe we could take a break from Meredith anyway. That's fine.
But she doesn't leave us. She stays on the couch. And we move on to the next rumor that caused a lot of problems, which was the circle jerk. It doesn't help when Lisa just says, I said it. I said that. Yep.
Well, yeah, it was on camera.
No apology.
We know that you said it. You were filmed saying it.
She must think that by owning it and the fact that she said it is helping.
Who's that helping?
I don't know who's helping.
Yeah, who's that, who's that helping? I think that's the question.
I got lost in my Lisa Barlow train of thought. I need a Diet Coke.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you're not doing yourself any favors, Lisa. I did it. I said it. That was me.
That was never in question. So I don't know why this is such a big selling point for Lisa to own up to this.
It was an analogy.
I think that was where they really started dancing around it. It was an analogy. No, that was an accusation that you threw out because you're attaching someone's name to a specific circumstance that's going on.
Then Whitney tries to make a point. She finally had a purpose in jumping into a conversation, and she immediately apologizes to John for the threesome rumor that she brought up in Mexico. That was supposed to be a clue to Lisa that this is how you conduct yourself in these conversations at the reunion. You apologize for what you said. Hopefully the person you apologize to accepts it, and then you bury it and you move on.
Lisa's not getting that memo.
No.
She's not part of that. She's not here for that.
She's not clocking any of this conversation.
It's not her job to, though. She is the villain this season. So everybody seems to be forgetting that aspect, too, because everybody's coming after Lisa as being this horrible monster person now. No, it's Housewives, guys. They're all taking turns. That's how this works. Every season, you kind of shuffle through who's the big bad monster of the group, who's going to be the shit stirrer.
Whitney's going to be the shit stirrer every season.
Well, it was, and Heather a little bit this season too.
But she goes so under the radar. She's really getting by in this reunion with almost nothing flying her way. That's irritating me too. Back to Whitney though. She finally gives us an explanation as to why that was the rumor that she read at dinner. Because she was under the impression that talking about Lisa's marriage was the worst thing she could do because that seems to really wound Lisa.
I will go ahead and disagree with that because I don't think that was Whitney's reason. I mean, I think she was trying to wound Lisa by bringing up a cheap shot of her marriage. I do believe that. But I don't think that the reason was that she wanted to bring this up so she could be absolved for it and then move on. I think she brought it up to be nasty.
Agreed. She did think through how she was going to explain it away, though.
Yeah.
It took until today for us to get that answer. I'm not accepting it.
The apology was already predetermined.
Yes, before she ever did the action.
Yeah.
Mean girl behavior.
It feels like that because it seemed like the whole exercise was a setup from the beginning.
The ladies are trying to get each other to understand that when you say things like this, it impacts the kids too. Angie tells us that little Electra got trolled on her horse page.
Hobby horse?
I don't know.
Or
what horse page is she running?
I may have to do some investigating now.
Someone send us Electra's horse page because we want to look at it.
There's some equestrian Instagramming that's going on here. So maybe it was a social
Angie
page.
Calling that her horse page? It's her Instagram?
I don't know why you would say horse page instead of Instagram if it was an Instagram. So I don't know if there is something more to that.
That has to be where people are leaving her comments. I mean, you're a sick person if this girl has coded her own HTML page dedicated to horses and you are leaving comments on it.
About the sexuality of her father?
I mean, it feels like something people would comment on Facebook or Instagram, though. They're mean.
I think
the comments.
So the thing that I'm seeing, is that it's a post from Angie and it's just a picture of Electra with a horse. It says, "My little equestrian." And that's how she introduces this. So it's not like a page that's set up for it specifically. It's mostly stuff from Angie's Instagram that's coming up here.
I was really excited for them to address what went on with Todd and Bronwyn this season and the weird interactions that they had. And it's like the whole group decided that they were going to defend them when that came up. What was that about?
I think it was a weird moment just because it seemed like Heather was going to address this because there were a lot of comparisons to Heather's ex-husband. And does some of this behavior seem familiar to you, Heather, in particular? It never really got there, though. It seemed like we saw unseen footage of Todd complimenting Heather, too.
And
so
selfies that Angie and Todd take at the gym? They work out together?
Yeah, Todd's making friends with everybody on the cast now. This seemed like another way that Bronwyn was able to kind of wriggle out of something where she gets the points and the credit for being on the yacht and opening up to everyone and having this heartfelt, sentimental moment. But then she can also walk it back later when you already feel like you have this established bond with her. And, oh, no, it wasn't really actually any of that stuff. I kind of overplayed it. I perceived it as an overstep or infidelity on Todd's side, but she didn't really confirm that. It seemed like she was more walking stuff back.
That's where I feel like this is the second lie that she's gotten caught in this tell-all, because she had everyone coming to her. Well, not everyone. She didn't feel like Meredith and Lisa supported her enough, but the rest of the ladies rallied around her on that boat and supported her. And as Lisa said, got on the fuck Todd bandwagon. And then that really wasn't what Bronwyn meant, but she never clarified any of the points.
So I don't like that. It's the wishy-washy. It's the back and forth. And it's hard for me to trust Bronwyn when she's saying stuff. So that's not even coming from a Lisa defense. I'm looking at Bronwyn's behavior and what's going on here. Because Lisa saying, "Oh, I didn't come to your aid here enough. I didn't pass that friendship test because it was Lisa and Meredith." It was interesting, though, to bring up that if you're saying that that wasn't infidelity now in hindsight, then how does that explain what you were talking about afterwards when you were lumping Lisa and Meredith into that group of infidelity defenders?
There seems to be a bigger story here, and that's what's getting ignored, which it started with the conversation of, the way Todd talks to you is kind of weird and it gives people the ick. And we just brushed on by that. And now you felt like Todd did something wrong in your relationship that you consider cheating, but maybe Todd didn't consider it cheating. And there's been a disagreement over what actually took place. And she has landed on it was the lesser of the evils because that's what Todd is framing it as.
Well, because, to bring that up on camera without talking to Todd about it ahead of time, too, probably, because it doesn't seem like Todd watched that footage. It was difficult for him to even sit through that. So that's not something that he can even speak to firsthand of how he feels about what was said, because he doesn't even fully know what was said.
I don't like the whole thing, especially that Lisa and Meredith had to deal with everyone coming for them, and the fact that how they didn't support Bronwyn was weird. When what Lisa said, I'm sorry, it's another Lisa defense, but she pointed out that Bronwyn has never expressed anything to her about her relationship with Todd that made it seem like there was some big infidelity. So she was questioning that. And I'm sorry, but it turned out to be true that it wasn't as big of an event as it was made out to be on the boat.
Which only explains further Lisa's kind of reaction on the yacht that day when it did happen.
This is all I'm saying. If you're on a show and people tend to exaggerate things to create storylines for themselves or to endear themselves to other people, I would question if maybe my friend was doing this. Now, also, could Bronwyn be genuinely hurt by what happened and now she is downplaying everything because Todd wants it to be that way? Yes, but then let's go back to the conversation about the weird relationship with Todd.
So we didn't really resolve either one
nothing.
of those. We left with more questions than when we first sat down.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's how I left feeling. Whitney is still really shitty about Seth yelling, "Proof, biatch."
I mean, I guess I would be upset too.
Why?
Why?
Is that a serious word?
No. And I think that was the point here that was being made. It seemed like it was something that he had said for a laugh as a joke in the group, and then now everybody is reacting to it. We made the joke too that Whitney was going to remember this for later, so then that way she can bring it up. So she absolutely did. Yeah, the day has come.
She has such a puss on her face during this whole interaction. And they do acknowledge that it was done in a more aggressive manner than it was meant to because there was a lot of alcohol consumed that day, and that he does apologize for how it went down, but he didn't mean anything aggressive in it. I just don't think that I would be able to take someone seriously if they said biatch to me. And if I'm going to get mad about it, I'm going to get in your face and tell me to just call me a bitch then, if that's what you're trying to call me.
Well, and then that's what he's getting upset about. That's what Seth is getting upset about and pointing out here is that Angie has called Meredith a bitch twice since they sat down for this tell-all just now. And then people are coming at him for saying biatch, which definitely doesn't have the same connotation to it in the way that it was contextualized in this example when he's holding on to his Brooks and Marks pop socket and showing everyone his search results.
I don't think it should have been taken the way it was.
They're exaggerating here, obviously. Yes, this is ratcheted up.
He does get a moment to bond with Todd, though, because they address the fact that they live in different places than their wives for most of the week. Seth seems to really enjoy this arrangement.
It's a good setup. It's the reason why he's still married to Meredith Marks. I would firmly believe that statement.
They only see each other on the weekends. And Todd, he can relate to this because recently there was something that came out about how he works in New York, and at one point, Bronwyn didn't even live with him because she was living in San Francisco. And by the way, I saw this on Reddit, so it's kind of hilarious that he's bringing this up. Is like Todd in a Real Housewives of Salt Lake City subreddit?
He's probably a moderator. He's definitely the type. He would be in there.
I hope that next season he gets really into the drama. It does seem like he's had some growth in that area.
He hasn't watched the show, though. I think we need to get him in on the lore, so then that way he understands a lot of the backstory of what's going on here.
Okay.
But to connect on that level of saying, we both work in the city, we both work long hours, that's not helping your case, sir, with what we have just established as the infidelity storyline, too, which we left completely open-ended as well.
Seth also had a Pikachu face the entire time Meredith was talking about their living arrangement and trying to address away the rumors that he has a side chick in Ohio.
The Columbus concubine is still in question. No proof yet.
He looked nervous.
He did look a little suspicious.
Yeah.
But I think the other part for me is when he was talking about how he does an annual review of their marriage assessment. So I guess that's all the customer service representation that he can get, or HR. He's doing annual reviews of their marriage. And as long as it's 51% or above good stuff for the year, he's going to stick around. So that's a real seal of approval.
Again, didn't sound the way you thought it sounded.
I don't think
it's kind of depressing.
So. Well, that's what Meredith even said. That seems like the bar's pretty low then. And he wasn't disputing that. It is pretty low. You're right.
Well, while we're on depressing topics, we've got to move into talking about Mary this season. And this entire segment just led to me crying. Did you cry?
Not really, no.
Oh. Well, you were the only one. You and Meredith.
Yeah, just me and Meredith.
Just stone-faced the entire time.
Meredith was not fazed by this section at all. Everybody broke down, had an emotional moment, talking about their kids, talking about Mary's parenting, her vulnerability, how great of a mom she is. So everybody's bonding. Everybody's kind of gushing over how great Mary is this season. And then they keep cutting to Meredith, and she's just staring daggers into her. She is not here for it.
I think it had to do with Andy's opening to this part where he mentioned her friendship with Angie.
Oh, well, yeah, Meredith's just thinking about that.
That's all she heard.
That's what's bouncing around in her head right now. She's not even hearing what else is being said at this point.
No.
She is completely in her head.
And this was a message that Meredith really needed to get, because we see Robert talking about his experience with drugs and comparing it to life without drugs feels like unseasoned chicken. It's just plain. There's no reason to wake up in the morning because you're just going to eat plain chicken. And then drugs add seasoning. It's the spice of life. And I thought that would really resonate with Meredith Marks, but she just blanked behind the eyes the whole time.
It. Yeah. Unseasoned chicken. That explains a lot of the cast this season too, I think. Bland white people.
Well, that's a lot of Salt Lake City. This conversation between Mary and Robert, it kind of came out of nowhere because all we saw throughout the season was red flags going up as far as what was happening with Robert Jr., but Mary was really pretty oblivious to it. And they decided together that they were going to film the reveal about him being on drugs because it had the potential to help other people. And Mary is really proud of the fact that they have had a lot of people reach out and say that it did change something for them in their life.
And even Heather had mentioned it opened up a conversation for her and her kids.
Whitney, too.
Whitney did mention that as well. Whitney is falling apart down at the end of the table there. She is a stack of tissues at this point.
She spends a good 15 minutes after this conversation ends still crying about how her kids now understand why she doesn't have a relationship with her dad after watching what Robert Jr. was going through.
Because she's been no contact with her dad since season 1. So this is just kind of an ongoing thing.
Andy's crying. He's bringing up Robert's quote about saying he felt like a stain and not knowing how that would feel as a parent. Other than that, it would have to be horrible. Everybody's crying, except Meredith and you. And then Lisa goes, "Aww." The loudest audible expression that she's had the entire tell-all when Mary says Robert Sr.'s reaction to watching that was that Mary is a beautiful mother.
And that's the only compliment that Lisa ever wants, desires, needs, or hopes for, is that somebody tells her she's a good mom.
I will give it to you all that is a great example of how Lisa only thinks about herself and can't experience other people's emotions outside of her own. So when that was said, that was something that she could connect with Mary on because it's something that she personally would love to experience.
I love that.
Then we really round it out by talking about Angie and Mary's relationship and how Angie's kind of been able to heal from the experience with her mom struggling with alcohol because of things that Mary has told her throughout this experience.
I did like that we started the segment with who is surprised with Angie and Mary's relationship here, this friendship that has kind of blossomed this season. I raised my hand. Nobody else raised their hands. So that was kind of weird for me.
No one on stage did.
Yeah, nobody on stage raised their hands.
I felt like it came out of nowhere.
I feel like they forced this upon us and there was no reasoning ahead of time.
Although at last season's reunion, didn't Mary say that she liked Angie? And that's when everyone was like, what?
Yeah,
including
it was weird.
Angie.
It was weird. Angie was surprised at that. That was news to Angie. So for them to walk in as besties in episode 1 for this season, that was something I did not expect.
And they're really trying to drive this point home because it's getting Meredith more and more upset at the end of the couch.
Well, because every time Mary talks up her relationship with Angie and the friendship and the bond and the support, what they're able to connect on, all these personal points, and all of that just highlights and illustrates the flaws that were in her other friendships. And Andy has to remind her, well, you had a pretty good friendship with Meredith, too. Is that still how you feel about this, then? Is that Angie's still the best and Meredith's really not much of a friend looking back on it?
Okay, I didn't really remember that they were friends.
Me either. So, am I going to forget that Mary and Angie were friends at some point?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I feel like this had a little bit more of a staying, like a resonant factor to it.
Well, Mary and Meredith also struggled this season. We saw the fight at the breakfast at Tiffany's luncheon with the bangs, which do get addressed, but honestly, not enough. We didn't pull up any old footage of it. I wanted to see it again. Meredith should have worn them to the reunion.
They showed it.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they did show a flash of them, but yeah, you
not
can't
enough.
leave it up there too long. They didn't even mention the fashionably late art gallery meetup fight that they had too, because that was another one, but I think that was kind of right around the Robert Jr. storyline kind of coming into fruition here. So they didn't really harp on that too much, but that was another point of contention between Meredith and Mary this season, kind of overlooked.
They seem to have just brushed it all aside, or at least Mary has. Mary, I think that she still considers Meredith a friend, but they're not like close friends.
Not like besties, yeah. And I think Meredith understood, after seeing the season, she kind of understood in hindsight of, oh, she had a lot that was going on. It wasn't just about making me wait at an art gallery.
Maybe that's what it is. She's giving Mary some grace because they do try to back her into getting into a fight with Mary over the bangs. And Meredith says, look, I don't care. Make fun of them. She knows they're bad. They were embarrassing.
How could you walk into that house and not know you were going to get made fun of?
I mean,
you got to know.
I think when you're seeing double in the mirror, maybe it's a little hard to know exactly how you're walking out of the house looking. No?
She knew what she was getting into. She knew what she was walking into with that.
Well, she came prepared today because she is not coming for Mary for things she said, but she has a whole list of things the other women sitting here have said about her.
Which Angie points out as pretty ironic because hasn't Meredith said a lot of things about a lot of these women here today too? Which Meredith has to dispute entirely, but then they give us a clip show rundown of a lot of the horrible beast things that Meredith has said and claimed over the past few years.
Look, she likes to compare people to animals.
A lot
she
of that.
likes to tell you that you're vile, that it's time for you to leave. But come on, for Angie who wrote the text about Bronwyn
Oof.
is going to be the one to say, you've said mean shit too.
Well, she has. I think that was
okay, but not to the level of the things that have come out of Angie's mouth. Maybe let somebody else speak up.
The Angie comparison that got me was how it was wild that we started the season with a scroll and now we've ended the season with a digital version of a scroll with Meredith's notes page that she is flipping through for all of her details and all of her direct quotes.
We have to talk about it because the camera zoomed in so that we could see. It's just from the Notes app on her phone. And it does look like every time someone has said something to her, either in real time or watching the show back, she has recorded it and just moved on to the next line. Not who said it or what was the context, just someone called me mentally unstable, delusional, all kinds of really nasty things that, I mean, seem pretty accurate. A renter?
A renter, which she was very upset about. And Andy had to clarify, but don't you rent a house though? Aren't you renting your house? And she had to concede, well, yeah, but it's the tone and it's the way that it's said in a derogatory fashion of referring to me as a renter, as like a less than. It's almost like referring to Angie as a backup dancer for Jen Shah's WAP video. Like that same level of derogatory tone. That's what I'm getting from people about renting my house. And I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to make any progress with Meredith realizing that people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones.
Well, people who rent glass houses shouldn't throw anything.
They really shouldn't.
They really shouldn't throw anything.
We just get Mary and Meredith hugging it out. That's how they see us out at the end of the episode. Mary looks over her shoulder and says to Angie, you got to get things straight with Meredith because I love her too. We're going to have the Three Musketeers next season.
I don't know if she said she loved her. I think she said she's my friend.
All right. Well, I took it to a new level.
I think she did say at one point directly to Meredith that she does love her, though.
Okay.
And that her breasts are a lot smaller, noticeably smaller.
Yeah. That's good for you, Meredith. It finally took.
This one has a chance. Yeah.
Maybe next season we'll get to see the three of them hang out a lot and they can hold an intervention for Meredith.
And another breast reduction surgery.
That's where we're ending part 2. Part 3, I'm excited for. Brittany is coming out. I guess we're going to hear whatever Jared texted Bronwyn. I'm going to make a prediction, which is that text or DM or however Bronwyn received that message from Jared happened when they were in Mexico after she read the text that she wrote about Brittany.
Oh, because I'm sure Brittany immediately called Jared and let him know the horrible things that Bronwyn said about her and him by proxy.
And now that he and Brittany are officially an item, their Facebook official, he's trying to get in on this show. Next season, he wants to be on the stage with the husbands. It is my belief that Jared Osmond wants to be a housewife husband.
Well, if that's your strategy, I think you need to date somebody else other than Brittany. And we know he's tried some other avenues, but Mary Cosby's not the way either. That's not going to work.
Isn't Heather the only other one that's single?
Heather is his last chance.
She didn't seem impressed by the Osmond name.
Right, yeah. Unless you recruit some other people who are going to have a little bit more interest in you.
My dream is that next season we have Todd more involved in everything that's going on. We get Monica back as a friend of or just dropping in at some point to cause chaos. And Jared Osmond keeps trying to crash events, even though he's not invited. But maybe we'll find out more about what next season looks like in part 3.
I'm still going to hold out for the Angie and Mary Cosby rivalry that's going to culminate out of this friendship, because that's eventually where this has to go, is you brought these two people together, they formed a bond, and then you're going to have to rip them apart.
That makes me sad. I kind of am enjoying watching the two of them together. Mary's got to have a friend on this show.
It might not be next season. They might let it go a little bit longer, but it is going to get to a point where we have this beautiful friendship end in turmoil.
That happens a lot on Housewives, so it's a fair prediction. As a reminder, you can listen to this episode as well as everything else we release across Surviving Reality and our other podcast, Surviving Sister Wives, over on our Patreon, patreon.com/survivingpod, ad-free and early.
If you like what you're hearing, make sure you leave a review, like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube.
Stay tuned for our episodes recapping The Traitor Season 3. Those are dropping every Saturday morning, and we'll see you next time.